So I'm Tara, and I'm going to be talking about religion in Greece. So in ancient times, you would call Greeks a polytheists, which means they believed in many gods. For example, Athena, god of wisdom, Poseidon, god of sea, and I think you know the rest. They thought of the gods that were like humans. The gods would make mistakes and behave just as badly. All around Greece, there were temples where people went to pray. And outside the temples, there would be altars where people made sacrifices, and they would sacrifice animals. They believed that after death, a ferryman called Charon rode your spirit to the underworld, and you weren't allowed to leave the underworld. If you were bad during your life, you would go to a place called Tartarus to be punished. But if you were good in your life, you'd go somewhere you call paradise. But most people weren't either, so they would go to a very dull place that was not very fun. They believed that if offerings were made to you, then it would brighten up the place where you are. The impacts that this had on people were not very big because it was the only religion they knew of, and they were born into it. While they were growing up, they were taught to believe in that religion, and they had really big feasts as Greeks do. So yeah. So now I'm going to talk about the big schism, which means the change. So when Jesus died, people started to believe in God and that they were real, and Rome took over Greece. They told the Greeks to be Catholic, and they would make Catholic churches all around. They wouldn't go against anything that God once said or Jesus once said. And the Catholic people owned the land, the law, and the taxes. So when people sinned, they would have to pay the church. The churches grew bigger and bigger, or were more powerful out of wealth because of all the money they were getting. They believed that after death, you go into a state called purgatory. That's the state between life and death, and you would be forgiven for all your sins. The impacts that this had on the Greeks was that they had to believe in something they didn't, and they had no rights. They were controlled, and they had no freedom. They had to change from something they were used to something they had no idea about. So yeah. Religion in Greece now. So people say the Orthodox religion, which is the Greek religion, is much more free now. For example, priests can now get married. But most people only go to the church for special occasions, for example, marriage, funeral, Good Friday, and more. Some people don't feel as strongly as others do, but they still celebrate the traditions. And in those traditions, they would have big feasts, including vegetables, pickles, taramosalata, and a lot of wine for adults, though. And in Greece, there's a lot of different religions, like Orthodox. Most of the Greek people were Orthodox. But there's 2% of the Greek people are Muslim, and some people in Greece are still Catholic. Although some people don't feel as strongly as others do, they still believe in the Greek goddesses and gods, and that has become very popular in the media. For example, the movie The Lightning Thief. And yeah. Thank you for listening.